What happened, though, is after a few years, the Articles of Confederation in regards to the federal government, and I say federal, okay, and it's important to understand what that word means. I'll talk about that in a second. But the federal government wasn't working so well, okay? So what happened in 1787? The states sent delegates to Philadelphia in convention to discuss how to revise, amend, and fix the Articles of Confederation to make the system work better, the federal system, okay? Now, the problem was there were some who came to the convention with an ulterior motive, okay? Primarily, James Madison's delegates from Virginia, which included Edmund Randolph and I can't remember, there was about 5 of them, Alexander Hamilton, a couple others. But they came there with an ulterior motive, and the motive was to convert the federalist system that had been established into a nationalist system, okay? Now, so let's discuss that point for a second, because for a lot of people, they go, well, so what? It's the same thing. Well, is it? How many of you, by show of hands, have used the terms federal and national interchangeably to mean the same thing? Okay? All right. Well, they're not the same thing. So what's the difference? Under a federalist system, we have a union. Okay? The Constitution even says the union, right? We have a union. A union of what? Independent, sovereign nation states that come together in union for a common purpose. Okay? What's a nationalist system? A nationalist system is where a group of independent sovereign nation states come together, but rather than maintaining their independent sovereign status, merge and consolidate into one state. Okay? So that would be like all of you bringing your families over to my house, and all of a sudden you all have my last name. Okay? That's not what happened. When the convention was over, even though it was introduced through the Virginia plan to create a nationalist system, the delegates fortunately had the wisdom to preserve our federalist system, okay? And that's what we had. But that idea of a nationalist system never went away. And what happened was, as you go on through the 1800s, there was more and more activities conducted by the federal government to usurp the powers of the state. Okay? Why would they want to do that? Why would people want to convert the federal government from a federalist system to a nationalist system? Can you think of any motivations why they would want to do that? How about just power and greed? Now, see, understand, they all lived under a king, okay? Where is all the power under a monarchy? At the top, right? And it kind of trickles down from there. And they were used to that system, and some of them liked that system, and that's what they wanted to create here, okay? And this kind of behavior continued on through the 1800s, and in 1823, this activity had become so prevalent that there were some people who were taking notice. Okay, in 1823, a gentleman by the name of John Taylor, who had been involved in politics most of his adult life, finally wrote a treatise and had it copyrighted and filed in the Library of Commerce, and the name of the treatise was A New View of the U.S. Constitution. And if you read that, in there, he specifically addresses this issue of perversion from a federalist system to a nationalist system. He was recognizing it even then, okay? And what happened is, as we get closer to the Civil War, some of the states recognized that the federal government was exercising powers outside their delegated authority. And you know what? They said, no, we're not going to have any part of that. And what did they do? They tried to secede and form their own confederation, right? Okay. Well, the government put the federal government stopped that, and as a result, well, there was a war between the northern and southern states, and the North won and preserved the Union and stopped the secession of the southern states. But what happened after that? Well, the first thing that happened after the Civil War in regards to this chain of events was the passage of the 13th Amendment. Okay? What is the 13th Amendment? That's the No Slavery Amendment, right? Now understand, after the Civil War, President Lincoln, through proclamation or declaration, reestablished the sovereign states back to their original status, okay? And those states resume their positions within the federal legislature, okay? That's important to know, because according, at that time, when 1867, 66, somewhere around in there, the federal government recognizes southern states as being back as part of the Union, right? Okay. But then something else happened. And Congress introduced an amendment to the federal Constitution, the 14th Amendment, okay? Now, the problem with the 14th Amendment is the 14th Amendment did what? It flipped the powers between federal and state government, okay? The 14th Amendment, what it effectively does is creates a whole new citizenship. It reverses the role potentially, or sets up the mechanism for reversing the role between state and federal government, okay? And it establishes a foundation for a nationalist system, okay? Now, there's some things in the 14th Amendment that might want to be preserved, but eventually, if we're going to get back to our original system of government as set up under the Founding Fathers, under a Federalist Republic constitutional government, we're going to have to address the 14th Amendment and also the 17th Amendment.